Let me show you how easy it is to get started with the Elsevier LaTeX template. I'm going to take you step by step. So first, we are going to be downloading the template from their website. The second thing is that we need to decide how we want to compile it. My preferred choice is to compile it locally with either Visual Studio Code or with PyCharm. However, here you have also the option of uploading this template to Overleaf and then use Overleaf to compile it over there. But I also want to show you one last thing, which I think is great, is not to use directly their Elsevier template from their website, but I'm going to show you the template that I always use when I write a scientific paper using Elsevier. This template contains a lot of other features, which I'm sure you're going to find very interesting. So let's get started and let me show you how to do all this. So the first thing that we need to do is to download their template from their website. So this is the website that you can use to download the template from. However, I got here was just by doing a simple Google search, and here you can see that I'm just looking for Elsevier template, and this is the first results that we are getting. So we're going to click here. The second thing is to look for this download the journal article template. So I'm going to be downloading their template from the original website. And this is a zip file, so we can just double click it on a Mac, or you can, I think also double click it on a Windows computer, and this is going to open the template for you. So here we need to look and decide what we want to do. So my preferred choice, which I'm going to show you first, is how to open this file and this template here using PyCharm here locally. And the same step apply, exactly the same step, to compile it locally with Visual Studio Code. I will provide you and show you later on where you can find videos on how to get started with PyCharm or Visual Studio Code to compile your LaTeX document. I think it's the best approach. So let me show you how you can do that. So in order to do that, we can open just PyCharm. Perfect. So we can just open a new project. So I click open here, and then we can go into downloads, and then we have the Elsevier article. Here we just have to press open, and this is going to open the Elsevier article template in PyCharm. I'm going to have to click on Trust Project, and here it is. This is our project. Of course, in order to compile this inside PyCharm, you need to have Texify installed on your computer and a LaTeX distribution also installed on your computer. The reason why I think is the best way is because here you can add all your figures or your tables, and they are all locally on your computer. So you don't have to keep uploading them on Overleaf as you add more figures to your document. So let me show you how you can get started, and which document you have to compile. So the first thing is to choose which file we want to compile. In this case, all these three files are going to be exactly looking the same, but I'm going to be compiling the else article template with just numbers. This is a matter of how we want to display the references in our paper. So let me just open this one here. I can just quickly scroll down until I find in line 54 begin document. Let me also open the presenter mode, so it's much easier for you to see. As you can see here, I don't have any run file at the top, but I can just click here, run Elsevier article template, and this is going to open a PDF for me. As you can see, it's very easy because you just have to edit the file on the left, and then we can see the PDF on the right, the same as it is in Overleaf. And the same is true also for Visual Studio Code. So let me just collapse that. Let me show you how this thing works. So here at the top, we can just write our title and say, this is my title. And I'm going to show you this, how I change this document and this template just once. This is going to be always the same, even if you do it with Overleaf or if we do it locally with my template. So we add the title. Here we want to add the author and then the organization. So here is the University of Sydney. Also, the other nice things why I like to use PyCharm is because here I can just press play here on this tab here at the top, or I can press Ctrl R on a Mac, and this is going to update the document here on my screen, and it's very easy to just visualize the two. Then here you can write your abstract and write more here. And of course, this, if you recompile the document, we see that we have added a sentence here. And here we can add the graphical abstract. We also have the highlights, which are very important in Elsevier template because Elsevier wants you that you write 4 to 5 highlights and just check specifically on the journal because they usually have a character limits. And then we have the keywords. So usually my research is about thermal comfort, and then we use the separator as is written in the documentation here, and is, let's say, thermal sensation. Okay, so let's recompile the document and we should be able to see the keywords. So here we can go into the section, which is example section. Usually this one is called introduction, so we can just say introduction. And actually something that I like to change is I like to put the label for that section in line with the section name. So here I can just recompile and nothing has changed, but has changed the title, but the label is still connected to that. Actually, PyCharm is also telling us some suggestions, which we can right click here and we can say show context action. And PyCharm, actually rightly so, is suggesting us that the section label should start with the SEC because this is a section, so it's going to be much easier later on to reference this. So let's do that. Let's accept this suggestion. Also, it's showing us that the text line should be in 2 different rows. Okay? So here we can change that, and nothing changes in the paper itself, but it's going to be much easier to reference this line and much easier to keep track of the changes if you write every sentence in a new line. So then we have an example of subsection, which is going to be numbered as 1.1 in this case. And then we also have an example of an equation. So let me show you here on the right, because this is not a video about teaching you how to add element to LaTeX. It's just about how to get started with the Elsevier LaTeX template. If you want to learn more about LaTeX, as I previously mentioned, just check my LaTeX playlist, where you will find videos about all the things that you need to learn about LaTeX. So let's keep scrolling down a bit to see this LaTeX template. So here we have some equations. We have also an example of a table. Then we have an example of a figure. And we have also the appendix, which is great because this is all the structure that we need to write a paper. Now we just have to put our information and replace the placeholder text. There is also an example of citation, and that's why I selected that file before, because this is the style of the citations that we're going to see. So here we can see that it's not referencing the author name, but on the other end is just reporting the number. But then we have all the references at the bottom. If I press Command 1, here I can navigate back into the file that we have open in our download folder, and we can actually see that we have other different templates. So let me split the screen here. So we want to open this one. Then again, as we did before, we just have to go here, line 52, where we have begin document. We can click here, and then on this green arrow, and we can say run Elsevier template of Harvard. Let me collapse the sidebar, and we should be able to see this time that the style of the citation is slightly different because we have chosen the Harvard style. So now that you have seen how we can compile it locally, for those of you that prefer to use Overleaf, I'm going to show you also how to get started inside Overleaf. Perfect, we just have to log in, we just put our credentials, and then after we log in, we can just simply click on here at the top, new project. So in order to do that, we can click on upload project. Here we need to select a zip file, which is in our downloads. So I can just go in downloads here, and we have the Elsevier article zip. And then I click on open, and this is going to take a little bit of time, just as to upload the file, but then we are going to be able to compile it inside Overleaf. As you can see here, we have the same 3 templates as we had before. Of course, this is not to include the changes that we have implemented before, because we have uploaded the zip folder. Now that we've seen all these two approaches, so how to do it locally with the Elsevier template and how to compile the document, the Elsevier template inside Overleaf, let me show you what I think is the best. So is to use my template, which is a wrapper around the Elsevier template. So the website that you need to visit is reproducible research on my GitHub repository, but don't worry, there is going to be the link down. So I can click here, and this is the file that I want to, or the GitHub repository that I want to show you. Don't worry if you're not familiar with GitHub, don't be scared, it's super simple to get started. So the first thing that I encourage you to do, if you want to, is to have a read at the README file. So just read this document here that I provided. In here, I explain why I think it's very useful to use this template and to structure your project like this if you also write a Python code, R code, or JavaScript code to analyze your data. But let me show you where you can get the Elsevier template, because inside here there is not the template, and it is in a different branch. So we have the Elsevier here, as you can see, the Elsevier branch. So you can just click here on Elsevier, and you can just click here on the code, and you can download the zip folder. If you're using Git, of course, you don't have to do that, but you could have just copied this HTTPS path and do git clone. But I want to show you for everyone how to do it. So the second step that you need to do is to open, of course, your files and go into downloads. And here you can see the reproducible research.zip file. Again, let's double click on this one. And then here we have a folder, and we're going to open this folder again with PyCharm. So in order to open it with PyCharm, we use the same approach as before. So we're going to open PyCharm, which is here, and then here at the top, we can say File, Open, and then we can go into Downloads, and we have Elsevier article and reproducible research. So we're going to open this one here. So in here, we are inside the project, and we are already in the right branch. The branch means what I selected before in here in GitHub. So here we need to make sure that we are inside Elsevier, and because in master here, see, there is no file inside here, there is just a README, but you want to make sure that you are inside the Elsevier one, because in here we have inside manuscript, we have all the folders and the files that we're going to be needing to compile the document. So here, make sure that you have the source folder inside here, or you can also visualize this in Finder. So here, you just need to make sure that inside here you have manuscript and then you have SRC. So you need to be able to see all these files inside over here. Okay? So let's go back to PyCharm. Here again, there is a README, which I encourage you to read because this is explains how I structure the project. But let me show you in a simple step how we can do everything, because I think this is a much better approach. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to go and open the main.txt file, and then here next to begin document, which now is in line 23. This may change slightly if I update this project, but don't worry. This is just where you're more or less going to find it, but look for this begin document command. So we click here and we say run main. So now that we have compiled the document, let me quickly show you the structure of my Elsevier LaTeX template, and then I'm going to show you the features that are included inside this template. So the first thing is I want to show you that I normally have a directory, which is called code for the Python code, and then I have another directory called manuscript, which contains all the files related to the manuscript. So we are clearly dividing the code that we write to analyze the data and the code that we're writing for LaTeX and the manuscript. Inside the manuscript folder, I have an SRC folder. This is the source files. And again, I'm separating this because PyCharm automatically creates this output folder, which will contain the final PDF. So inside the source folder, which is the important one, and all this is explained in the README, we have the figures, which contains our figures that we're going to be importing in the PDF. we have all the sections, which is the key. So we are going to be compiling the main.txt file, but then we write and separate the text in every section. And then we also have the tables. We have the bibliography file, which at the moment contains only one reference, just for example. And we have my preambles. So in here, I import all the packages that are going to be needed to compile this document. And I've almost already included most of the packages, so you're not going to have to include many more packages. But of course, if you want to, just include them in my preamble. Then we also have a cover letter. If you want, you can compile this file, and you can also have already a cover letter half written, and the structure is all there. And then we have the main.txt file. So this is the key file that we can decide which section to include in our paper. So we have a bit of explanation at the top on how to adjust the Elsevier class. So at the moment we are looking at the review. So see here, you can also, if you want, you can also have the 2 columns version to see how the paper is going to look at the end when it's going to be published. Then we have the list of acronyms that in a second we are going to see how to include them in our paper. But here is where I've defined all the acronyms. So the acronyms have a key, then they have how we want to display the acronyms. This is how it's going to be displayed, so the text of the acronym that comes with it, and the unit if you want to. And the same thing is the glossary. So we have a file in which we define all the glossaries entries. Finally, and still super important, is mydata.dat. So this file here is super useful because inside here we can define the key of the variable that we are going to be generating this file, of course, with Python, or even manually if we want to. But here we define the variable, and let's actually let me add a variable, so participant, and then here I can say number 10. The advantage of using this approach here is that later on in the text we can just reference this variable. So if you are referring like to the participant in several parts of your paper, you just have to import this variable and update this value if you want to update. So let me quickly show you. So in the introduction here, I have this section here, how to import a variable, and let me add here, so the number of participant was, and then we can say var, and this is ChatGPT, but we're suggesting us the wrong name. So let me just put participants, let me recompile the file, and we should be able to see that now here we have in this section the number of participants was 10. Okay, but then if I want to reference it again, I can just say var, and then I can say participants completed the study. Okay, so if I recompile this file, now we have again 10 completed the study. So if later on this number of participants changes, we only have to change it in one place, which is in that file. So mydata.dat. So here, if I change this one to 12 and I go back here, I recompile the document, you will see that that number is updated in also the PDF. So here we have 12 and 12. Now that I show you this, let me quickly show you the main file again, where I show you how to import the section, and then we go through all the steps of all the other great features that I've added to this template. So if you go to the main.txt inside here, so we are importing the glossary, we are importing the acronyms, and we are setting the double spacing, and in here we are importing all the sections. So input, introduction, methodology, results, conclusion, and the bibliography file. We are adding a bit of a clear page between the bibliography and the end of the paper, and the bibliography and the appendix. So here you can confine all the text. So for the introduction, it's going to be all in the introduction file, which you can find here inside sections, and you have introduction, and this is all the text of the introduction. And the same is true for the discussion, methodology, conclusion, appendix, and results. The last file that I haven't shown you, but is also very important, is the abstract. So here in the abstract, of course, you will have to update your information. So for instance, you have to change the title of the paper to title of, let's say, my paper. And then we recompile the file, and then we're going to see the changes reflected on the PDF. So now that I show you this, let's go back to the introduction, which I've opened here on the left. and we have the PDF on the right, and let me show you all the cool features that I've added to this template. So the first one, which I think is great, is the nomenclature, which of course is not by default inside the Elsevier template. The nomenclature, as we have seen, we can define a key, and then we can have a text appearing every time we refer that variable. So in this case here, we can go into the subsection here, and we can see the command. So the command is /AC, and then here is the key of the variable that we want to reference. And this is going to print the first time that we reference this variable, the full text, and how the variable should be looking like. But then the second time that we reuse this command here, and as you can see we are using in the next sentence, here we can see that we are only showing the variable name because we have already defined it and we have already added to the nomenclature. If you want to find out more, of course, about the nomenclature, but all the other things that I'm going to explain in this video, just look at my LaTeX masterclass, and over there you will learn all these tricks. But this template is great because everything is already set up for you. The second thing that I want to show you is the glossary. Similar to nomenclature, if we want to write something that is very long and verbose, like here, ISO 7730, 2005, we can define a glossary entry, which I showed you before, but you can find them, and then you can just reference this glossary entry with the GLS command. As I've done here on the left, you can see that I'm referencing the standard, and you can add as many glossaries entries as you want. We also have a table that we are importing from an external file, which is much better because it's much easier then to maintain and collaborate with different people. We're also adding a figure, and this is an example on how to do it. And then we are adding the variables, which I just showed you before, how to include them. And I think this is a fantastic feature, which is of course not included in the Elsevier template, but I think here is where LaTeX shines, because you can just reference variables rather than having to hard-code them inside your code. Finally, I have added all the other sections, so methodologies, results, and conclusions. These are empty, so you can just write your text here. I have the reference, where I provided one reference, but of course, feel free to add more. And finally, I have the appendix. So it's very similar, as you can see, from the previous Elsevier template that we downloaded from their website, but I think it has already a lot of other features and is structured in a nice way. So you can use this one rather than using their own, because otherwise you will have to do all the structuring and importing all these packages yourself. So I really hope you have learned something useful. If you think you did, probably you will find my other videos on LaTeX also very useful. So I highly recommend to have a look at my LaTeX playlist. If you find this video and if you are still listening, first of all, I would like to also thank you very much for listening to this point. It really means a lot to me. If you feel very generous, also please leave a like and comment to this video if you have any questions. Like are free and you can also subscribe for free. This really means a lot to me because it helps with the YouTube algorithm so it can show the same video to other people. If you want, you can also support this channel on Patreon or by buying me a coffee. Thank you very much for listening. I really hope you have learned something useful today, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.